Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful to be here this night, grateful for this beautiful city that we live in and for so many good people here. We ask you to bless us through this meeting, that we can make decisions that are good for everyone, that we can follow the ordinances that we have in front of us, and that we can work together to keep this a place that so many want to live. We are grateful for all that we have, for so many blessings, and we're grateful for all those who serve in our city in the military and help in any way to care for others. We love thee, Father, and we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, roll call. We got Commissioners Ortega, Commissioner Skeen, Commissioner Faulkner, Commissioner Neal, and myself, Jared Maw. Welcome, everyone. Planning Commission. I am going to read a opening statement that we read for each meeting. It says the following: all those attending should have signed in. The Planning Commission is interested in receiving public input and treating everyone fairly. In order to treat everyone fairly, it is important that everyone understands that the Planning Commission is governed by Utah state law and Plain City zoning and subdivision regulations. These codes can be found online, and they contain the criteria that the Planning Commission must follow in making its decisions. The Commission will make both legislative and administrative decisions during this meeting. Any legislative decision will be recommended to City Council for final approval during their scheduled meetings. Persons making presentations or providing comments shall address the Commission from the podium or the microphone and not from the audience. Individuals desiring to make comments during the appropriate public comments or public hearing times are entitled to 3 minutes. Persons shall state their name and address and will direct their comments to the Commission and may not directly question or interrogate other persons in the audience. Proceedings before the Commission shall at all times be orderly and respectful. Audience demonstrations such as applause, cheering, display of signs, or other conduct disruptive to the hearing are prohibited. Any persons behaving disorderly, abusive, or disruptive may be excluded from the meeting. The Planning Commission has adopted rules regarding outside contacts, otherwise known as ex parte communications. Commissioners are not to engage in communications outside the public hearing regarding administrative applications. If you desire to speak to commissioners, it should be done at a regular meeting so your comments, concerns, and evidence are on public record. I will now go through each commissioner and ask them if there were any ex parte communications, if they would please disclose it, and we'll start at the end here with Commissioner Ortega.
I did not.
Commissioner Skeen.
I did not.
None for me.
None for you?
No.
And none for me as well. All right. Now we will allow the public to come up and address us. It's public comments time. This is for anything that is not to be addressed on the agenda or be allowed for public comment on the agenda. So it doesn't look like we have a public hearing for anything right now.
So they can comment on
So you can
anything.
comment on anything.
Yeah.
Time is yours. You're welcome to come up. And if there is anybody in the virtual world out there who would like to comment, please do so right now. Okay, I don't hear any. So next item we'll do is approval of the minutes from our last meeting held January 9th, 2025. Still difficult for me to say 2025.
It shows 24 on there, don't it?
Oh, does it? I can't even, I couldn't even see that with my glasses, but see, other people are having a hard time changing it too. All right, did anybody see anything on the minutes that we need to revise?
So I felt like my comments got twisted about the DADU.
Okay, where's that at?
So, sorry, I should have highlighted it, but it said several times that things needed to be changed. When
Okay.
I think in reality, I thought that they should stay the same. So the Commissioner Faulkner indicated the application needs to change from primary owner required to have a home occupation license to if used. That part's actually correct. But then change owner occupied to owner occupies primary dwelling.
That's on page 5.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
So, but I guess I just want to make it clear that that's just according to the application, but I did not want the ordinance to change.
Right.
And so I didn't, maybe I just,
I was just putting the,
Hmm.
I should have maybe put it in parentheses to change.
yes, so I don't know if you want to add those or not. I just want to make sure that the comments were also that the ordinance should stay the same in regards to you don't pay a business license unless you're renting.
I think you can clarify that, Tammy. Okay. Any other revisions? I didn't see any.
Good.
All right. I will entertain a motion.
Are we motioning with adding those comments? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the Plain City Commission Planning Meeting minutes from January 9th, 2025, with the addition of comments about the DADU ordinance not changing.
I have a motion from Shauna. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Skeen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion appears unanimous. All right, we're gonna change things up a little bit. We're gonna switch the legislative and administrative items. So we're gonna go right into a discussion, which is item number 8 now. Discussion with Matt Fox from Bonavista. Vista. Mr. Fox, are you here today? I thought that was you. How are you doing today? Come on up here and let's talk. There was an email that you sent out earlier today, is that right?
Well,
Right.
it was yesterday,
It was yesterday? Okay,
but you all have a paper up there. You should have a paper.
Same paper right here.
yes. All right, got it. All right, so,
I guess you guys have some questions for us regarding availability and will serve letters.
yes.
Okay. So we initially give an availability, that's just simply stating that there's water available, you know, and it lines out the criteria of what, you know, needs to happen. And then it's followed by a second letter, that's the will serve. That's when all the fees are paid, we're good with everything, and that's done. So, I mean, my recommendation would be, I wouldn't put anybody on agenda or anything until you have a will serve letter from us. Then that lets you know that we're good with everything.
So that is what we have felt like we needed to do, but we had a gentleman here at our last meeting saying that he was told that he didn't need to do that yet, that he could come to our and I think he said he was told from Bonavista, right?
Yeah.
No, and he come probably the next day and got that. And
He
paid the
did
fee.
come,
He
yes.
did.
That's
To
good.
me, I think after I saw where it says he paid the fees, he got his letter. I don't think,
Is that what it was? Is the
And
fees
it
were-
could be, but if they read the availability letter, it states all that. They just need to read it thoroughly and see.
Yeah.
And the will serve, I mean, that kind of states it, that we will serve at that point.
So it's no issue when a development comes in for preliminary. They should be able to there's nothing that should hold them back from getting their will serve letter if there's, you know, if they've taken care.
Right, the fees have been paid, secondary water's been looked at, all that.
We were just under the impression that you guys weren't gonna release it till it got approved, and then we're like, well, it's like cart before horse kind type of a thing.
Release
Like till the subdivision was
The will
approved.
serve letter.
oh, no, we'll have that prior to the subdivision.
Okay,
So,
okay.
So do they actually, so if they're coming in and they're kind of preliminary looking at doing a development, you know, and they're saying, you know, we're hoping this will work and everything like that, some people I think are gonna hesitate a little bit to pay all those fees and transfer, do they have to actually transfer water shares to
have to
Pineview and
do
obtain the receipt from Pineview saying that they'll supply, they have the appropriate amount of secondary water? Because you guys require that now, right?
we do, with the availability, that's just saying we have water available in the area to
In
them.
the, yeah,
They don't
within a
have to-
reasonable distance. So you'll give them an availability letter, but as far as like the will serve letter, they won't get that until they've paid for and transferred all the secondary water and got the receipts from Pineview or Mountain View.
Yeah, those companies will just give us a letter saying that they've done everything they need to do at their
They
entity.
met your criteria and their
Yeah.
criteria.
So, once we receive something from the secondary, that's one of the stipulations for the will serve. So we've checked that off and then the fees are paid.
So you guys aren't involved in the shares?
We don't have any of that.
well, it's turned over to the secondary.
Said the secondary.
Yes.
And according to our ordinance that I was reading through, it either has to be Pine View or Mountain View.
Right.
And well, right now, we're learning that there's now a third one. The Jacksons have kind of created their own.
I've heard that.
Right,
Their own secondary water
right,
district,
right.
like their own district. Wow, that's an interesting process.
But
Okay.
It's,
according to our ordinance, they wouldn't,
So in that case, are you okay if that company sends you a letter that secondary is available?
yeah, that's fine. They'll just have to show that, there's sufficient water. So we require 3 acre-feet per acre of irrigatable ground here. Those other entities, they may require less, that's up to them, but they're gonna be liable for that irrigation, so
Okay.
that's on them.
3 acre-feet per acre,
Irrigatable ground.
irrigatable.
So, Matt, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When they bring us an availability letter, have they paid their fees?
We are gonna start that, because there has been some,
Yeah,
there, and it's been overlooked, but that's what are gonna do now. So when they do that, we'll go through it, but you pay your fees, and then we'll give the availability in that. It'll be better tracking.
But availability is different than will serve.
Exactly. Availability is just saying there's water available.
So you're saying they will pay their fees just for the availability letter?
Yeah, if they're gonna go forward, then that's one of the things that's gonna have to happen.
Okay, but we'll
That's
still require the will serve to,
That's what I would require more than anything is a will.
right, and that kind of goes way back to the early letter that I provided for you, dated clear back in 2015
Yeah,
that we received.
that's before my time.
Because if they bring in an availability letter, and we
doesn't-
approve a subdivision based on that, then they can't supply the appropriate amount of secondary water. to
Right.
the road, when they're ready for water connections, then Bonavista's gonna say, well, we can't serve your subdivision because you haven't, we haven't provided the water shares necessary to get
secondary.
the secondary taken care of. So then at that point, we run into the problem that we did have where the subdivision got all the way approved into the end, and then we found out they don't have water.
Right. And the reason we're gonna start that process of having fees paid is we're gonna send that to engineering, make sure everything's up front. So if water lines need to be upsized, they're aware of it right from the get-go.
So basically,
there is
for you to go from availability to will serve is proving the secondary water.
now,
We'll
yeah.
need to see that.
Okay,
Yeah, so, where they were reluctant to pay the fees, they're gonna have to pay the fees now
Gotcha.
regardless. And, okay,
Because when we do that, when we send it to engineering, there's a water model that goes out, where they model the engineers to make sure that the pressures, the flows and everything are gonna be sufficient for the development.
Well, that leads me to another question, and what's Bonavista's, or do you have a position on these open reservoirs that, such like Treasure Acres out north has, and I hear a lot of complaints from the residents regarding that. And so, and that's what, and then you were at that meeting where, Pat Burns kinda indicated that's what they were gonna do.
Right. So the biggest problem we've seen with HOAs and things like that with their own private irrigation is fees not getting collected, the HO fee being dissolved, and then that secondary system just getting run down, pumps not getting taken care of, and then they supplement with us. So it's something that we really watch, and they need to have, it really needs to be a business, you know what I mean? Something that, showing that, not just, so it is something the city and us are gonna have to look into and make sure it's a viable source of water and everything like that.
so perhaps we could change our ordinance to say it has to be a Bonavista-approved secondary source.
Yeah, that would put weight on us. That would be fine, however we wanted to do that. I think you guys have a secondary ordinance as well, don't you?
Right, and that's where I
It's
listed.
gonna be both of us, yeah.
Yeah. But right now, it just names the two,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and that would, we're okay with whoever supplies it, it just has to be an up and running business in a sense, not
Right.
just volunteers or something like that,
So here's a theoretical scenario. I'm just trying to make sure I cover all the bases here with things that may come up. So if someone's bringing in a subdivision, part of our application, they have to have a complete application now before they can bring the subdivision to the city. So in order to have a complete application, they have to have essentially a will serve letter.
correct.
But they don't know if their subdivision's even gonna get approved at that point or not. So they could be going out and transferring water shares to Pineview, paying their fees, and doing all those things, and then find out they don't have a subdivision because they can't get what they want or whatever. Unlikely, but it could happen, and it
could.
has happened.
And they should be in talks with us, that's where the availability letter would come.
Right.
Would be looking at it and saying, hey, this criteria has been met,
It should be at our first review, right? They should be able to
Yeah, your first review should have our availability
Should
letter.
be able to look that over and say, now you have to come back with will serve.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how we'll do it.
Because
We'll just-
it says in there that it's secondary is part of the availability letter. It shows all that. Do you have it there?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
goes through that and states that.
But we just kind of mentioned that we should have a will serve at that point, right? But now we're saying that we need to do an availability. And then
Your
after the
initial one.
subdivision gets so far along,
Yeah, I think your second
Before
review
final.
should have your
Right.
final should have the will serve.
should have a will, okay, so
I mean,
that's what we need
they
to.
should,
That help
they
you?
should have a pretty good gauge after that first review, whether or not this subdivision's gonna be able to go through. I mean,
But Dustin's right, we were talking about we needed the will serve when they turned in their application. And it sounds like an availability is okay for the first review.
And then we may just have to do a better job at telling people like, so this is an availability letter, so before you get final, you need to make sure you get a
Right.
will serve letter here for final approval.
Oh, Tammy, is that on the application? Showing that we need both
Yeah.
letters?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's currently on the checklist? Is that a availability or a will serve?
It doesn't say. It just
Oh,
says
okay.
water.
it might be good to clarify and also add in the secondary too.
I think it worked better before, a couple years back, when you didn't necessarily have to have the Pine View sign off, right? Like, I mean, this is kind of a newer thing the last couple years, right?
Well,
Where-
No,
it's
that-
always been in there. I mean, we kind of known, like talks like, hey, Pine View's there, you know what I mean? You're gonna take it, whatever, but
Yeah,
this is just solidifying all that.
okay.
Dustin, this goes back to when they first approached us and told us that we needed the first two letters, and that was back in dated June 10th of 2015.
It was 15, okay.
So if somebody comes in with an application, on the checklist, we're gonna have an availability letter? Is that what we're saying?
Well, it just says
Yeah.
proof of approval by culinary water authority.
Right, and so I'm saying that we should change it to either be the availability or the will serve.
Yeah, change it on the first review when it says that they have the availability letter, then the next review, right, the will
Talking
serve.
first and second review, we don't really have like preliminary reviews anymore. They,
Yeah,
But we have decided that we will always get a first review on everything.
yeah. And so for that first meeting, we only require a
an availability,
ability, not the will serve.
right.
And so then when they proceed, if they are not able to get the will serve, or do we have, is that grounds for us to reject the,
Well, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to come
If
to
we
another
put it on the
meeting if
checklist,
they
it
don't have a
would,
complete packet.
huh?
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah,
they
If it
wouldn't be
wasn't on
final.
there, I wouldn't
so
be.
Can't give a
that's
final.
what I'm saying. So that's because you're saying they wouldn't have a complete packet. I'm saying we're gonna approve it as a complete packet with only the availability letter.
We don't approve on the first review. We don't even have a motion.
On the first review. Isn't that, the first review is when we decide whether it's a complete,
Well, I mean, but we still have the opportunity to have questions and make.
Yep, they should have that
Okay.
at that point. Okay,
they should have what?
It's never going to be
Availability.
approved on the first review.
Right.
So then that gives them a chance, if they want to go forward based on our comments, then they have to go get a will serve.
Okay, and then after they get the will serve, we have another chance to reject them if they don't have the will serve?
Well, they wouldn't, I mean, I don't think Tammy would schedule them to come again unless they have the will serve.
because it's part of the checklist.
Okay,
If they were coming to final, they would have to have that.
okay.
If they didn't, I probably wouldn't put them on until they got that.
They don't have to have the checklist complete for that first review? I thought
The
that was,
first one, we're saying an availability is okay for the first review. Then when
See
they
what you're
come
saying,
back,
It's kind of a gray, it's kind of a weird thing, right? Yeah, because we're saying they don't even get on agenda at all for first review until the application's 100% complete.
but the application right now just says approval from culinary source, or however it's
we're
worded.
going to change that. I'm asking what we're changing it to.
We're changing it to,
That's the ordinance, yeah, that's the ordinance.
Yeah.
So you'd have
But it's only the water.
So we would
portion
have
of
to
that
change
is
the
only
ordinance.
partially complete.
I think that's fine, Tammy, I think it'd be good
What
to
would you
open that up
prefer?
and
What
do
do you
that.
think?
So I think I'm still confused, but like, we're saying after they get the will serve, then they wouldn't be able to come because it's part of the checklist, but we've already approved the checklist at that point. We approved the checklist with the availability letter, and
so
then they
you
go
think,
get the
you
will.
think it would be better to tell them to pay all the fees before the first review?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking if, after they get the will serve letter, if we still have a chance to reject the development if they don't have
Yes,
a
we
will serve
do.
letter.
Maybe not for that reason, but absolutely, we get 4 turns.
Well, if that's the only thing that they don't have, and they don't have a will serve letter, I mean, I don't know.
We've all agreed that we want one chance to look it over before we would ever approve it. So the first review doesn't have a motion.
Right.
So that if they
So
came
that
in,
first review, we're only requiring the availability.
yes,
Then they go get a will serve.
yes.
So after that, how do we proceed from there if they're unable to get the will serve letter?
Then
Then-
they
Well,
would
then
get
it
on the
dies.
agenda again.
So they
Yeah,
won't-
it would just die. It's like they
Okay.
haven't given us all the information, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't meet that.
Okay. Okay, that's, okay.
No, I totally get it,
Yeah,
but,
well, because once we, after that first review, we're accepting that as a complete application.
Are we? We're not accepting it.
You don't have to accept it after, at the first,
because they're not making any motion at that point.
and there'll be things that, you know, they'll have to go and do back and forth.
Right.
So, yeah, you're not accepting, I mean, the complete packet's kind of vague. I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's-
Maybe we could,
I think that's my problem, is that it's vague, and I don't understand, yeah, so that's not how I understand
maybe it's
it.
worth opening it back up.
Yeah,
You know, they're completing this checklist, but
Right.
there's other things, you know, maybe they don't meet the ordinance, or, you know, there'll be other things, but that checklist is just the first step. And then
Yeah.
you'll look at it, and it kind of keeps going from there.
okay.
So the checklist is good, but then we'll have more things that you may want them to do.
Yeah, because maybe we'll see something on the site plan itself that we need to mod.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Fox?
I have one more. You said the 3 acre-feet per acre. Is that just for residential, or does you have change from the commercial,
No, that's everything.
everything?
That's irrigatable ground, so you could take out like the building and that's just the green space and that.
Okay.
Good to know.
Okay, is that it? Any more questions?
I don't have any. Anybody
You
else?
don't want to hear us talk a little more, though, about it?
No, that's fine. Whatever we can do to help.
Thank you for your time. We
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right, let's cover the other administrative item, which is the Marsh Mountain View subdivision located at 3450 West, 2200 North. This is a first review. Speaking of first review. All right. All right.
Cody Taylor, Great Basin Engineering, 5014 South 1100 East, South Ogden. So I'm filling in tonight for the engineer and everybody else that,
All right.
so,
So you saw the list from our engineer's review.
Yep.
Have you had a chance to look at those, review those? Do we
Yep.
have updated, have you been able to update your drawings? You've got those right there. Okay,
they've been updated, they've been sent back in.
okay.
Comments have been addressed.
Including the red lines on the sheets and everything? Awesome,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, all that's been taken care of. The geotechnical report as of number 1, I think they're checking on that still. The rest of it has been taken care of. All the red lines have been made, and comments have been addressed.
So when did our engineer receive those?
They should have been sent in today.
Awesome, okay.
So, yeah, we're
That's why we don't have
ahead of the
response.
curve a little bit, yeah.
We kind of like to hear his comments before our meeting.
Well,
Get him to him the same day, there's just no way.
yeah, and since this is a first review, right?
Yeah. Can you tell me lot 25, what the front line, that was say, front lot line is?
The length of it?
That's the curved one, right? Is that what you're looking at, John?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't read the curve. I can see it's about 72 feet.
Well, yeah, C9 and C10, they're down here on the corner.
Okay, that's what it says. I couldn't see it on this PDF code.
It's too small for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So it looks like he needs to add on the plat, there's a couple of dimensions on there that he needs to add. There's not a dimension on the north of property line. C9 is not in the list for some reason, hasn't been added, and C10 is on there.
Okay. Yeah, I see it now.
So what is it?
388. No.
So there's a couple dimensions that need to be added.
So you're almost 210.
Is it your plan to put a duplex on that lot?
That I don't know. I'm not sure what they're doing.
No?
Just a regular, single family, okay.
Joe's online if you,
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, Mark shook his head, so.
I am here. Sorry, I was trying to find the mute button.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. On the one that I'm looking at, C9 and C10, I do see the cord length there.
I think we're
I'll-
okay with what the frontage is, but we're just wondering if your plan is to put a duplex on that.
I have not decided which ones would be the best for that, or if I will for sure actually do that.
You know that it has to have 150 frontage though, right?
Yes, I do. There are, I believe, 4 lots on here which would qualify, might be 5.
Okay.
Perfect.
And it needs to be the full half acre.
Right.
Yes.
Isn't there an irrigation ditch running through this as well?
It has, it's been piped.
Okay,
around.
it doesn't
It's
show
already
on
been
the, on
piped?
the subdivision plat where,
Being proposed to be piped on the.
Okay.
None of them have it?
that I can see.
Let's see where he's got here.
It was definitely on the previous version, but maybe when he put the engineer updates into the full pack, it didn't show up.
Should be in here somewhere.
I have everything that he sent.
You know, for easements or something? Is it irrigation that's gonna be abandoned, or
Yeah,
is
so
it?
it comes in from, it's on sheet C3. It comes down the lot line of lot 10 and 11 into the cul-de-sac and then heads straight south.
So we have C1, C2.
We don't have
We
C3.
don't have C3.
Is that what the stuff he sent today?
Oh, I don't know what he sent today.
All these comments and these drawings and stuff were all sent back back in today, so.
Okay, so the next review will have that up, okay, that's fine.
I just have from the 116 what they sent.
And this is an 18.5 subdivision, right? That's what we've got. Because he came in, he wanted to propose it.
Correct.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, just.
So to answer your
just
question,
clarifying.
it's on these new sheets. It'll come down between lots 10 and 11, down 3400 west, and then run the east property line down lot 15, and then south of lot 15 back over to the ditch.
Where are you gonna connect to the culinary water, north or south?
It looks like it's gonna be on the north side and run straight through to the south side, down 3425 west.
Okay,
So north and south is gonna run through.
So I don't know if this makes any difference to your development, and Dan needs to have some input on it, but the neighborhood to the south is where I live. And it's kind of a U-shaped neighborhood, and that water for that neighborhood was brought in from the south, and it was capped at the end of each street. And this is a former planning commissioner that told me this information and said the intention was that when development came to the north, they would connect to those capped water
It is
source.
connecting to whatever's in the next street to 2200 north.
I don't know how it could because it's a different water supplier that,
There's a
You
water
talking
line
about
in.
secondary or culinary?
well, he said culinary, but now that you say that, that's true.
we'd have to see that utility plan to
It
verify
could be
that.
different if it's secondary.
Should be the same as front.
But
Right.
regardless, the water pressure in that neighborhood is low because it doesn't continue.
Doesn't move, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to get with the engineer and verify. But as of right
But
now, it's
I
by-
need it to be for sure what's gonna happen before, so that's fine if it's till the next meeting, but we have to know for sure what's gonna happen with that.
That's fine.
That's fine.
But I'm not sure how another subdivision relates to my subdivision. I mean, I understand there's that concern. There was somebody that was, at one of the other meetings that brought it up. I believe it was secondary. Not culinary, but again, I don't know. But I think that's something that if we're gonna be spending engineer fees looking into, that would be on the other subdivision, not on mine.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think it needs to be addressed so that our city knows what's going on. And if it's something the city has to pay for, it still needs to be connected there. So I just am saying, needs to be addressed and talked about, so.
Or to
Sure.
Tim.
Is there any comments?
Dan, you had something?
I did speak with Pineview about that situation, and that line definitely does not loop through, and that's what they were waiting for, is that development to come in so they could have that connectivity into the other subdivision. It is stubbed out at that intersection that goes into the field at that point, and it was highly recommended that we have them go through Pineview. So, because for that activity, for that subdivision to get
My,
pressure.
my current intent is not to go with Pineview, it's to go with Mountain View.
Why is that, Joe?
Because Jeff Hales was instrumental in getting me the additional water shares that I needed, and
It was through a
think-
different district?
no, he found somebody that helped me get the water shares that I was missing. And since they're both available, I told him, yeah, we can do Mountain View. Also, I believe the fees for Pine View are more than the ones for Mountain View.
Different water companies require different shares too.
Yep. Okay.
Is there a letter by chance from the irrigation, Plain City Irrigation? Have they looked at the plant, proposed irrigation reroute and approved that and looked at that? Do you know?
I don't know. I have asked them before, but they told me that they weren't aware that there was a pipe going through the property.
Oh, interesting. Because I would think we probably need something from the
I would
irrigation.
think that's something all it requires just some documentation, even in just stating that they're not aware of it and it's okay.
Yeah,
Does this say they reviewed the plans and found?
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Because you've seen, there are irrigation ditches.
I'm pretty sure there is, yeah.
And if they've
there's-
been abandoned, then that's fine.
I don't think they've been abandoned.
Okay.
Because I know that, yeah, I don't think they have. I think they're still active.
Okay.
I think
I
it
don't-
is too.
I don't know that for sure, but, my neighbor
Well,
said he
it's-
was over there by that subdivision over there crawling in irrigation pipes trying to fix stuff. And so I'm assuming that's the line that it comes down through and hits.
Well, especially where
People
they're saying
over
they
behind.
piped it.
Right.
If they piped it, that means there's a purpose for piping it.
Yeah.
versus just going in.
Yeah.
Right,
so-
yeah, I just want to make sure those, because we've had some issues in the past with the flows and everything on all these, so we just need to make sure that,
Right. So
The
as long as
entities
they
that
get a
we-
correspondence from the
yeah,
irrigation.
just a correspondence, hey, this is what we're looking to do. Do you foresee any problems with this? Are we going to cut anything off, cut anybody off, or the flow's going to be adequate, and stuff like that.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, this is just a discussion, so there's no motion, but so first review, you've got your comments. We'll get those updated drawings then that you sent in today. We'll have that ready for our second review, and we'll go through it.
And you did hear the discussion regarding will serve letters and
Right.
I did. Yeah. To be honest, even though it wasn't clear on the checklist, Tammy was there and she basically said, look, you need an availability right now. And then when you get further along, you need to have the will serve. And, you know, it's an educational process as you're doing it. You're not going to surrender your shares if you don't know that you've got your project approved. But both companies, Mountain View and Pine View, basically have issued an availability, and as soon as I pay the fees and surrender the shares, then they'll give the will serve, just like the discussion. In fact, Matt's the one that I was talking to on the Buena Vista availability. So he's already reviewed this plan. I don't know if he's still there or not. And I paid the fees to him for his review, but I have not completed the other part, which is showing the proof of secondary in order to get the will serve from him.
Okay.
If that made sense.
I believe the
One more real quick.
one letter from the Weber Box Elder Conservation District says that this property is not currently part of the secondary water district, so I think you have to, needs to complete inclusion process.
Right. So Mountain View has their board meeting, I believe it's the 1st, and Pine View has theirs on the 10th. And it basically, if I pay the application fees, get on their board, that by the next Plain City meeting, I can have that taken care of.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to having that info. Okay?
Okay.
What,
Did you just raise your hand?
yeah, I raised my hand. Hey, real quick. Item number 6 on the engineer's comments, the cul-de-sac length. Is that,
Okay.
come up with anything on that?
Yeah, so they're gonna, basically his comments back is they're gonna try to get an exception request. By adding the knuckles, it actually creates a turnaround at the cul-de-sac at the end, so it shortens up that fire truck having to turn around. So we need to get an exception letter sent in to review that, is what the next step is for that.
But I think he's talking about the length of the cul-de-sac. Is that still?
It's it's before we added the knuckles on the ends. So at the end of the intersection like on 10 and 11, and then at 12 and 13,
Okay.
that was just a radius before. So now it's become basically a knuckle by a recommendation from the city.
Can you, this might be helpful before we get there, can you provide a correspondence that says, you know, a reply to that letter and how you addressed it in the drawings? Would that be helpful?
Does the ordinance allow for an exception if the fire marshal signs
Yes, it
off on
does.
this?
Yes.
I didn't think it was a fire thing. I thought it was just,
It's not a fire thing, but it's still an exception that has to be approved. And I don't think we can. I don't think it's this body that approves the exception.
No.
no, but I'm saying, can a
I mean,
cul-de-sac
fire
in Plain City be any length it wants to be as long as the fire department says it can?
No.
Or is the
No.
ordinance
Maximum is
mix
still
them?
600.
Right. So,
So the
way they
response to
explained
that
it
is
is that
they're gonna
those
put
are
in a
so long
request for an
as-
exception.
The fire hose will reach.
But the exception will still not be more than 600 feet, correct?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on if they're willing to accept with what we've redone with the knuckles on it.
Okay, but it can't be over 600 feet. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
because right now it shows 761, but the knuckles are bigger on here, I think, right? The one I have, see, I don't know if I have the right
Why
plan
did
now,
you
is the
get such
problem.
a big one?
I think it would be a good idea, Cody, to just, on the engineer's checklist, show or explain how you addressed it and where you addressed it at.
Yeah,
if
then we
that
can
would
look
be
at it at that
possible.
point.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and keep in mind, anyway, yes,
I know.
I've thrown into this.
I
so
understand. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now move into legislative items, which we have a discussion motion to amend the definition of for frontage on Title 11 subdivision regulations, Chapter 11 definitions.
I thought thought we weren't changing the definitions, we were just changing the setbacks to say front lot line instead of frontage.
I think,
That's what I thought too.
okay. And then didn't we add frontage on a quarter lot shall be limited to one
We
street
did
only?
change it for the
Yeah.
corner lot.
That's part of this, right? That's all.
That was in December when we had the public hearing, and then it got tabled, and so we've never decided, so I put it back on for a motion, just for that definition.
Okay. Just for this one definition?
Yeah, that was all we had the public hearing on,
Okay.
after you guys talked about front lot line.
Oh, we just opened up a can of worms, didn't we, Tammy?
So do we need to do another public hearing about that part?
Okay. Got it.
Another public hearing on what part?
The front lot line,
Changing the setbacks to indicate front lot line instead of frontage, because our definition is different.
Yeah, okay.
and since we weren't discussing the setbacks at that time, yeah. Semantics. Okay.
So yeah, that's all it was just to kind of close that one up.
Okay.
So since we've had the public hearing, we can actually do a motion.
can.
And this is a recommendation, correct?
Yes.
You want to go for it? Or you're not sure yet?
No, I think we're good. So we're just gonna address the frontage definition right now,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Specifically to corner lots, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the change to chapter 2, or section 10(2)(1) and the definitions of frontage, to the way it's presented here on our
Okay.
form.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion appears unanimous. I didn't ask for any opposition, but I think everybody voted. Okay.
I think we have it on the frontage. I think we're good.
All right. Next is a discussion on the general plan. And we should have gotten task and deliverables. Is this something, Tammy, that we advertise to people, or how?
No,
Okay,
the Hansons are going to be helping.
okay,
So where did this come, this, is that their outline?
okay.
And that, when did they submit this?
I don't know, they gave it to Diane. And so when I told her what we were doing, she forwarded this to me, and I sent it to you guys just so you could see what the plan was. And then I put on the email, you saw that they're waiting for the grant. We'll know in April if we've got the
Yep.
grant.
Do we want to talk about any details? Or
Who-
just like it and we're okay?
Who wrote the grant?
I'm not sure if it was the Hansons or if I'm not sure. Dan, do you know?
Dan, do you know who wrote a grant for this general plan?
I don't know. It was not me.
Hanson's?
Okay.
Okay. So we should hear him say April.
Anybody see anything that they want to add to the task and deliverables?
One thing I noticed that because our current general plan zoning map is so abstract, I'd like to make sure that it's more detailed, if we have to even call that out.
Did you say the map?
The future land use map, yeah.
That it, instead of
General,
changing the zones like we did, it correlates with our current
well, that, but just,
I think it's okay to have future on it, but it's just
Sure.
so vague, you know?
it's so abstract. I look at that and I'm not sure where the line is actually for some of
Right.
these zones that,
And I
Sure.
think Brad, our engineer came and got the copy off the wall. It's a little bit better than the one in the book, has more lines and he took that and he was going to redo it.
Okay.
So hopefully it will be better because.
I can tell you that Brad has a CAD file for it. too,
Right,
that he's
that-
updating, so.
that's the only thing I would see is I'd just make sure that zoning map is more detailed than what
He
we,
gave that to me a long
Yeah.
time ago.
did?
Oh, yeah, when I was doing.
Cheater.
Well, it was, I was drawing a map of Plain City for something, and he's like, yeah, I'll give that to you, so. He's got the CAD file and can update it, so. Well, this is exciting to have finally, it'd be, I hope,
You know, an outline, yeah, it's.
yeah. I mean, it puts it in motion, it's a long process, for
I actually
sure.
really like this a lot.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, does anyone have ideas on how we're going to set up the steering committee?
I still have, you know, when you did the. you did
The survey.
Or survey, I still have all those emails, of everybody who said they would like to be on. I mean, I don't know if that was too
I
many.
just think that's probably too many, but, so how do we,
How do we break it down?
you know, maybe city council takes a look at that list and they each choose one or something like that?
Mhm.
Yeah, because I do have it, so.
You could kind of do like a little interview process. They come down and
Good.
present your ideas, present.
You know, and it's been, what, 2 years, so some of them may move, maybe not interested anymore, so.
That was my first introduction to working in the city, as I got asked to be on that committee. And I knew nothing. So I'm not saying an interview isn't helpful, but sometimes it's nice to have a few people on there that just want to help with the city, you know?
And it does, would we say on the committee how many members from city council would be on it, and how many members of planning
It just
commission?
says established, so you probably could make your own
I've never done
definition.
No. Well, I was just saying it'd be good to have say, you know, we want to have X amount of city council and X amount of planning commission members, you know? So, and, you know, that way you have your role, you know,
When I was on, it was 1 and 1, but I'm not saying it doesn't
and that
only
could
have to be
very well
one,
be.
but that's what it
And the
was.
individual that's participating on that committee comes and returns and reports to the commission and to the council. That's what I want to see happen. So just as the progress, you know, or when they have a public meeting and they want, the entire commission can go and participate, because I'm sure, you know, more than one individuals on the commission here would love to participate if they had the chance, you know, I suppose, so.
Well, and people on that pool that don't get asked to be on the committee, it says there's also focus groups, so.
Right.
yeah,
And you could break into different focus groups if you wanted to, you know, so.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I think it'll be good.
Anything else? It's a lot to digest on this, but I think this is really exciting to have, so.
So we're thinking April's when we're gonna try to
The
officially
funding
launch?
and
finding, and I guess then Hanson's gonna
hopefully
come forward.
not too far after April,
Yeah,
yeah. Once we get the grant money for it. That's what, I want to see it start, us open it up as soon as we possibly can, so.
And plan B is if you don't get the grant.
I don't know. There is no plan B.
Diane said we still need to open it up.
Okay.
I mean, she said there is a little money put aside, but she said we still need to open it up this year. So I don't know.
Well, that's,
Just open up the general plan?
yeah,
That
put
could
it
be
up.
a
Yeah, to be,
quagmire.
Look
Yeah.
at it, whatever you do with the general plan, it needs to.
it might not be a,
Official
might not
motion?
be a complete overhaul, but might.
Or we don't have
amendments.
consulting on it and we just try and do it ourselves.
Oh,
Well, they would,
we're getting too big. We need some input. We
Yeah.
need some guidance.
no, the Hansons will still help,
Okay.
but, you know, it's just, I don't know how much money is being set.
Right, it may be, it may be a scaled down version of what we're seeing right here. Okay. Let's hope we get the grant.
Yeah,
Got it.
because we need a new map.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
If you remember, if you recall,
Map, we could find someone to take care of that.
No, I'm not doing that.
if you recall, well, I recall, is when we did our last general plan, I was chair at that time, and we ran it, I had to come back and ask the city council again for more funding.
That's right, you did. I forgot that.
So, you know,
I went in and asked for more and they gave it, but I
Yeah.
don't know what's happened since then. That's been 2 years. So,
You don't want me to do that. I mean, it's like when I do my house plans for my own dream house with my wife. And
yeah.
she wants something, and I'm like, that's crazy. So what do I do when she's not looking? And since I'm drafting it, I get my way. Don't. She's not
All
listening.
about you, Jared.
No,
It's all about you.
there are limits. There are limits.
No, it'll be interesting to see what the legislature does this year too,
Yeah.
so get that
Yeah,
done out of the way and.
There are some legislation, like I said, regarding housing. And I haven't gotten many details on it yet, so, but when I do, I'll let you know.
on the news.
also, I'm not sure, but it might be coming due to this year, is every 2 years you have to update the low and income housing plan.
Mhm.
That's part of the general plan.
And is
right?
that an unfunded requirement? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's a state requirement.
Okay. Well, to keep track with schedule, Tammy, you know, well, I want to get, I'm looking at the clock here.
You're cutting it short.
Cutting it short, let's have a report from city council, from Commissioner Ortega. Were you there?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, city council, they approved the annexation of the AJS Investments, that property that we talked about last time,
Mm-hmm.
3050 west, 2200 north. So they're gonna have to wait for the state to approve that as well. But while they're waiting, they approved.
Hang on, the state has to approve what? Sorry, I can't hear you very well.
The annexation.
They have to approve the annexation,
Oh,
that extra property.
okay. I
that
didn't know
development.
they had to go through that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they approved the rezone of it in anticipation that the state will reject, or that the state will accept it.
Okay.
And so,
Contingent upon.
yeah, if the state rejects it, then that rezone vote would
Okay.
be null, so. Then they approved the conditional final for River Crossing Phase 3 and for Pappy Estates. Those are the ones we'd sent to them. And that was it.
Wow, okay,
We were out before 7.
right.
Really?
Well, the crowd was, they stayed for a while afterwards, so, on a closed session. They-
Oh, gotcha. I thought it was a party.
Might have been, we don't know.
Oh, I'm
Closed.
sorry, I missed that. All right, so we got Chairman Jenkins going for next, let's see,
Next Thursday.
He's going next time, yeah.
yeah, February 6th, right? Okay, he's planning on that then?
Oh, so you're right, though. Was it 2 weeks? It would be 2 weeks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There's not anything next week.
That's right.
5 Thursdays.
All right, commission comments. We'll reverse it, Blake.
I'm sure you all saw, I'm not sure if you all saw Tammy's email regarding
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
the Jackson property, like that. That development agreement, like that,
There's a lot of issues with that development.
there it is, and the thing is, it didn't happen the way, well, we met back on I checked with my notes, and it's back on 25 April, we had the TRC at that time with the Jacksons and with Pat Burns. And as I recall, I mean, I thought I was filling in, and I just went in there, and I was surprised to see the engineers and everybody. I mean, I just, like, I was blindsided on that. But they came away and it was gonna do a development agreement. And so they were working with Brandon like that. And of course, Craig is gonna be representing the Jacksons. But
Greg, who?
Craig Jackson,
Craig Jackson, okay.
Not Craig Call.
yeah. So,
You're going,
Yeah, I was just clarifying that.
okay.
but anyway, so the way the discussion went afterwards with Brandon is that the member of the city council and planning commission like that would meet with him to kind of go over the development agreement with recommendations and things like that. None of that happened that I'm aware of. Unless they've been meeting with city council, I don't know, but anyway, so there's a lot of issues, I think, regarding that development
Right.
agreement.
It's definitely not a
And I wonder if we, would-
fine.
and I think somebody brought up that, you know, we don't even have to really accept it.
Nope.
So, of course, I don't know if all of you are aware that Ken Jackson passed away on the 14th
I read that in the email thread.
14th of December, like that, so. But yeah, but then they get back to this water issue, creating their own, where we're really not identified in our ordinance as that being viable,
Option, yeah.
Does not.
so.
Okay.
That's an issue. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues like that, so I just not really sure how to proceed with this development agreement.
Well, as it's written right now, I don't think I could recommend it.
Well, the thing is how, we need to convey that somehow
Right.
to
To the,
Jackson's, or to Brandon, or whoever's communicating with.
I don't know.
Hey, planning commission? I went through that development agreement, like 3 different times, just to make sure I was reading it right.
Right.
It is 100% one-sided for the developer. Nothing in it is remotely to cover the city or in any way, shape, or form. I did reach out to Brandon. Brandon he was kind of stumped, going, why are they sending it to me? And I told him, I said, at this point, I would wait for them to respond, because we don't even have, I've never really seen a plan set in stone that, okay, this is phase 1, this is phase 2. So when we're reading the development agreement, where's the land app that, Ken was telling us, oh yeah, we're gonna go ahead and deed this piece over to the city, and this is where we're gonna be getting our water. And like I said, there was too many holes in it. And when I spoke with Brandon on it, like I said, I told him I would just sit on it and not, because that's the thing. Are they looking for, okay, hey, the attorney's good with the development agreement, now we can move forward? No, let's get the development figured out first on what you're going to do. And they wanted the high density up front, and I know that in favor at that point. And like I said, how can you have a development agreement when you don't even have a development planned out?
That's very true.
Exactly.
I just know that before Ken passed, that he told the neighbor that lives across the street from that property, Gerald, the Andersons, like that they planned on starting developing this year.
I don't see how that's possible with what they've got, so.
Well, if my memory serves me right, they came in and were presenting some stuff to us. We gave them some feedback of things that we thought would be better suited. And then we didn't hear from them for a long time. And then all of a sudden, we caught wind that they were working with
Legal.
Brandon, and we were confused, like, well, wait, they're not working with us anymore, they're just working with the city attorney. And so we were confused as to how that was gonna work, and then that's where it kinda ended. Like, we haven't heard or hide or hair of anything up until right
Right now.
now. So, we were confused at the time. I thought maybe it was just me as to how that works. Like, you just bypass planning commission, go straight to a city attorney, and you start negotiating a developer's agreement through the city attorney and not through the council or commission. So,
Right.
we were all kinda confused how that was gonna work. I still am, actually. But now I feel like Brandon's kicking it back to us, saying, well, yeah, you need to go back to the planning commission and talk to him. It sounds like he's kinda kicking it back to us now.
Yep.
Which would make sense. So, yeah, I think the motion moving forward for Tammy, cause you kind of inquired, is that they just need to start the process and come in and,
And I told him that, but he wanted to meet. He wants to meet. You know, because I sent an application and a subdivision application and said, you know, they'd like to see the layout, whatever you're gonna do, pay your fees. And he said, we've already paid our fees, and so I looked through my documents and
Only
maybe
technical review.
review fees, but I don't know. So I
He's
don't know
not.
where to go.
they never actually filed a subdivision application.
Nope.
And there's a bunch of rezoning that needs to happen too. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is a PRUD in a way, or an overlay, but we don't really, I mean, we don't have anything to go off of for that, so.
Well, they
Right?
wanted to probably do an overlay, but they want to develop it, they want to choose and where they want to develop first, and we didn't particularly approve where they wanted to put the high density. But
Right.
then we were advised that they could do a development agreement, so we had Craig Call come in. Craig advised us on how it would happen, but also said that it's very difficult to do those without the city becoming at risk, because if any part of that agreement is misunderstood by the developing party, they can sue the city.
Right.
I didn't have time to read that thing, it's 43 pages, but if there's anything in there you guys are saying right now that it's not very beneficial to the city, I'm not sure why we're even doing this. But even beyond all that, how do we approve something that doesn't meet our ordinances?
We don't.
That's what we do. So it would have to go, in my opinion, it would have to go right to the city council. And I hope the city council will recognize the concerns with it, so.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
That was my comments too, so sorry.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
okay.
no, that was all, that's it.
Dustin, Rob?
Nothing.
I have none either. All right. Well, it was a good meeting. We almost ended at 8, but I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dustin. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Blake. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. 8:04 PM.
Dang that.
Almost. Okay. I'm sorry,
Recording
I
stopped.
should have had you, if you wanted to say anything, you were welcome to. All right.